some questions up as well if you get any, like from
Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. We're on our United show today, Devil's Advocate, and today I'm joined by Jamie McKay from All for United. And today we are going to be previewing Manchester United's massive fixture tomorrow in the Champions League against Istanbul Başakşehir. So I suppose today, before we kick off tonight's podcast, I'd just like to give a special mention and a massive congratulations to the Tipperary football team, senior football team yesterday, who achieved a fantastic achievement yesterday of winning their first Munster senior football title in 85 years. And with the anniversary of Bloody Sunday yesterday, it was a fantastic achievement, a very fitting occasion for it to happen. So, and for many players to play for Tipperary, all from our local area here in Clonmel. So massive congratulations to them, and though they done the county absolutely proud yesterday. So I'd just like to extend congratulations and a massive well done to everyone involved there yesterday. It's a fantastic occasion. So Jamie, I suppose the first thing tonight ourselves that we'll talk about is the game this past weekend against West Brom. Now, I suppose previously on one of the previous shows we done a couple of days ago, we were talking and we did say that we, against teams that predominantly sit with a low block, that we struggle. And again, we've seen that again on Saturday. West Brom came to town with a 5-4-1 formation, and Ollie again, he picked two holding midfielders, and for many of the fan base, he was under a serious amount of scrutiny with his team selection. And I suppose when you looked at West Brom's counter-attacking exploits this season against teams like Tottenham and Chelsea, I can sort of see all he's thinking. But again, when you're at Old Trafford, you have to take the initiative, and that's always been the Man United way. For you, what did you make of the performance against West Brom on Saturday, and were you happy with the performance and the result ultimately?
Yeah, just obviously touching on the result first and foremost. I was obviously delighted that we got the 3 points, because we need to put a run together. Obviously, we picked up 3 points at Goodison Park, which people were predominantly saying would be a tough game with them sort of playing some good football at the moment under Ancelotti and scoring goals for fun, which we've been struggling with. So delighted, obviously. I know the performance itself wasn't sort of very pretty, but sometimes it's not going to be pretty. You're going to get performances like that under an manager. So I just think I did tweet as well. I thought he should have been a little bit more braver playing teams like West Brom. When you've got players like Donny van de Beek, and obviously I know Pogba wasn't available, but let's just say he was, we need to be seeing players playing like that against teams like West Brom. I'm not a big believer in playing a more defensive-minded team. But I honestly think the frailties of the centre-back pairing worries Ollie to the extent that he does feel that he has to play them two defensive players. I think that's literally what it is. And I was saying that last night, that I do feel that it's something that we're going to see sort of maybe for December and January time. Is that too? And if that's the case, then that's just the way it goes. But I would have liked to see a more sort of progressive player with the ball in that midfield, and maybe tried a free in midfield against them. I don't think you need two defenders against West Brom, but if we're being honest, it nearly went wrong, didn't it? So it's a case of maybe we should sort of just accept that we got the 3 points and be happy with it. But you probably noticed, Keane, I know we're sort of follow each other on Twitter. I didn't really tweet too much about the game, because the hostility that I seen online was just, I just don't want to be part of that. I just don't get it. It's like some fans want us to lose. I just don't really understand it. It wasn't the nicest performance. It wasn't pretty on the eye, but at the end of the day, it's 3 points, and that's all that matters at the moment. So we're going to have to win ugly sometimes. It's just the way it's going to have to be. Yeah,
look, I suppose for me, Saturday, look, I wasn't happy, number one, with the team selection. I thought it was too safe almost. it looked like he was going not to lose rather than win. When you play those two holding midfielders like Fred and Matic playing against a team that's still 19th in the table, it's grim. Like, it's very grim. Then, not to mention, like, the performance itself. Look, it did flatter to deceive, but look, as you mentioned, we did get the 3 points, and that's ultimately like the most important thing, that you go and regardless of how badly you play, the most important thing is you go out and you get 3 points on the board, because at the end of the day, it's a results game, and you need results. Now, I suppose, like, in looking at the game, like, look, I know we got a penalty and it was awarded by VAR, and there was the whole retake situation, and Bruno did put it away in the end. Like, and I know, look, I usually joke about the Bruno propaganda and all that stuff, but tonight I'm not really going to do that, because, again, we're at a situation here against a team like West Brom. We needed a penalty and we needed a retake to ultimately get a win and get a result in the game. Which for me, like, that isn't good enough. It isn't. And you look at the quality of player that we have. We Martial, we Edison Cavani on the pitch, Marcus Rashford on the pitch, Bruno Fernandes on the pitch. Alex Telles is a very good attacking left back. There should be enough in that team to win more than a dodgy penalty, a retake situation. There should be enough there. Now, I understand what you're saying in terms of the hostility on Twitter, and look, we all know what football Twitter is like. It's sometimes a very horrible place to be. If you're not a fan of social media and you're a football fan, I wouldn't recommend you go on Twitter sometimes, because it can be a hostile place. I've been on both sides of it, but one thing I will say, obviously, it is like, I can see why fans were going mad, because you look at the manner of performance, you look at the quality. No disrespect to West Brom, but with the team we had out, we should be putting them away quite easily. Do you know what I mean? And I can understand why fans would have kind of reservations about our performance, because of the manner of the way we got the 3 points. But I suppose the best thing we can say about it is 3 points on the board, and we move on to the Champions League this week, because potentially 3 points here gets us through. Do you know what I mean? We'd only be like a point off.
I think you've got to analyze the weekend's game, as well as, obviously, we'll talk about Başakşehir in a minute, but I think you've got to analyze it for what it is. It wasn't the best performance, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. We didn't always play great football under Ferguson. That's what people seem to not remember. We had some of our greatest ever games. The Bayern Munich game in '99. We didn't play well for the whole game. We won when it mattered in the end, and Fergie time was built on last minute winners, because it got us out of trouble because we wasn't playing very well. So it's going to happen. But if Marshall and Rashford stuck away them chances, it's 3-0 and nobody's talking about the result. So I think it's just swings and roundabouts. I think sometimes our fan base expects us to win every game and win it great, and it's just football. I don't know if you've played football yourself, but I've played a half decent level myself, and I've played for good teams and I've played for mid-table teams, and sometimes you're not going to win them all, and sometimes you got to win ugly. So I just think there's a quite a big social media culture with regards to Man United, and some of them just like to be negative for the sake of it. Really, I'm not going to sit here and criticize anybody for what they put on their own personal account. It's up to them, but I just feel like sometimes you've just got to take a little backward step and think, you know what? When you analyze it for exactly what it is, it was a bad performance, but it was a win.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you look at it's 3 points, and that's all you can ask for really out of the game. But one thing I'll say is, again, it's just the opposition. I think that's the fans. That's their main gripe. But again, as you're talking about fans on social media, there's plenty of fans on social media, and I'm friends with some of these fans. I'm not friends with others. But there's fans out there who want Man United to lose a game for the sake of the manager getting sacked. Again, as much as I'm not, I'll say it straight out now, and I've said it on previous shows previously. I'm not a vicious Ollie out person. I'm not. I'm simply not. I'm not going to scream to the rafters Ollie out. But what I will say, and I've been consistent with this, long term, I don't think he's the man to take us forward, in terms of winning titles again. Do I think he's that man? No, he's not. You've been on a show and I've mentioned that, and I mentioned it again. I don't think he's a man to take us forward and win us a title. Ollie isn't. Let's get that straight. But at the end of the day, I'll back the manager until he's out of the job, effectively. Like, I'll always want us to win a game, regardless if he's on the verge of getting sacked or not. I'll always support the team. But there's fans out there who want the team to lose a game just simply because they've an agenda against the manager. Fair enough. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? And if you like a manager, that's fair enough. If you don't like a manager, that's fair enough. But wanting your football club to lose, the team you supposedly support all your life, if you want your team to lose just for the sake of someone losing their job, well, then you need to question yourself as a football fan, and you need to ask yourself, why do I support this football club if you want your team to lose a match? That's my biggest gripe with fans on social media, just in general.
Yeah. We were having a little bit of a debate about that last night, obviously on a different show, but it's just, I just think it's a social media culture. Every club has them. It's you're gonna, and I'm not saying they're wrong either. I come on your platform. I come on All for United, and I give my opinion. And not everybody likes it. I've had comments on Twitter saying that I'm talking rubbish when I've tweeted out something, or you don't know what you're on about, and that's fine. I never bite back because there's just no need to. I come on here. I try to be as polite as I can as a human being and give my the subjects we're discussing. That's all I can do. But everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But there's absolutely no way on this earth I would want my team to lose a game so a manager loses his job. It's just, I couldn't think. It ruins my weekend. I don't know about yourself, but I hate it when United lose. It just it puts a damper on the whole weekend.
Yeah, especially when if your team's an early kickoff, there's nothing worse on a Saturday.
Yeah, there isn't.
Kickoff, your team loses. There's nothing worse. But I know what you mean. Like, there's a couple of comments after coming in through Facebook there. Paul, I'm not going to say the name he changed himself to on Facebook, but Paul Fitzgerald has commented, all he needs to grow player and start playing all the attacking players together. I agree. He also said we have one goal from open play at Old Trafford this season. Yeah. David Mann has commented, how can any manager set us up to play with two defensive midfielders against a newly promoted side? Yeah, look, I've said that at the top of the show, David. You missed it. I did say that he needs to be more brave, like against a team that's going to sit with a low block, regardless if they're newly promoted or not. You need to be playing a 4-3-3. Don't play two defensive midfielders at home, especially against the lesser side. Now, I can understand if you're doing that and Liverpool or Man City come to town, then absolutely, yes, I understand. Like, but when it's West Brom, Burnley, Brighton, Crystal Palace, teams like that, who are going to sit and play on the break, who are going to sit there, 10 players playing the ball, you don't do it. Like, you simply don't. But then again, look, it is what it is. The performance wasn't great. We got 3 points. But look, we move on now to much I suppose bigger things ahead now, because we've a hefty fixture list coming up in the next couple of weeks. So, Jamie, I suppose we're looking ahead now to obviously the Istanbul Başakşehir game, and I suppose reflecting on the last game that we played against them, we thought, I thought it was going to be a handy 3 points in the group and we're through, And again, that game was absolute calamity, Two goals we conceded that day. The defense was just below par. It's the best word I can use live. The defense was below par. Two very big mistakes that ultimately cost us 3 points in the group. But again, we're at Old Trafford, and look, I suppose we should be getting the 3 points here, kind of regardless of what team you put out, because Istanbul, I know they did beat us and they got 3 points in the group, but the quality we have at our club, we should put them away very easily. For you, looking ahead to this game, like, who do you play? Because it looks like Paul Pogba's back fit now, and looks like he's within a shout to come back tomorrow. Mason Greenwood has trained for the last kind of week, and looks like he's kind of back within a shout. Who would you like to see come in? Now, I know we're going to go to like start 11 predictions later on in the show, but for you, who comes in? Because we've a hefty fixture list. Considering squad rotation has to be a thing, you can use spice substitutes in the Champions League. For you, how do you do it?
I think it's the case of Ollie's got to look at it and think, do you know what? Like, looking at it from a fan's perspective, like we've got to win the game. So for me, I would put out a strong 11 with regards to getting at them straight from the first whistle and getting in their faces and getting the creative players on the ball to win the game. Because I said on after the first game, I felt like it was an opportunity missed, because we'd be sitting here having a completely different conversation if we got the result out there. I know Turkey's always a tough place to go, but you're not dealing with the fans at the moment.
Yeah, what's the hostile environment that usually
they do make it very hostile, and it's a tough place for some of the elite clubs in Europe to go and get a result out there. So I think it was an opportunity missed. For obviously, with everything going on in the world, the circumstances were a little bit easier playing out there in Turkey with no fans, but we just didn't turn up. The formation was all over the place. I think he tried the diamond, didn't he? It didn't work.
Yeah.
It was just flat from the first ball, really, and I think they've got to look at that and think, you know what, we did get that wrong. If I can't see him changing from his 4-2 or 3-1 at the moment. I feel like that he's going to roll with that. I would be very surprised if he did change it. I know obviously it's good having Mason and Paul back available if Mason is available. I know he's been dealing with a little bit of a knock, but I did hear he's been training as well. So it would be good to see him sort of getting back in the team. I know he's had sort of quite a lot of heat around him at the moment, so it'd be good to see him back on the football field and not having to deal with everything else that he's dealing with. I wasn't convinced that Pogba was out the team due to a knock. I'm not really buying that, but I'm not going to go into that too much.
Looks like he's trained. So on Friday, he had a knock coming back from France. He trained Friday, and he picked up a knock in training. Apparently, he tried to run it off. All he didn't want to risk him Saturday. So all he did say in his presser today that Paul Pogba should be available tomorrow.
Okay.
Providing obviously Tuesday session, but he said that he should be available, as is Mason Greenwood as well. So
we should be
I suppose for
beating teams.
Yeah, for me, I think
teams
Paul
at
Pogba
Old Trafford.
Like for me, Paul Pogba, I think, should come back into the team and this week against Istanbul. For me, I think Bruno, of all the players, I think we should rest in this game. I think Bruno Fernandes is probably the one player that we do rest. So again, he's been our best player. He's played virtually nearly every game this season. I think he only missed like a game and a half for Portugal on international duty. So for me, I think Bruno, of all players, needs to be rested. I think he's the only person who can be sacrificed, really. Because with the amount of games we have, and the 5 subs aren't in England either in the Premier League yet. I know they're after making that in the Championship, but it hasn't gone live in the Premier League yet. So for me, I think Bruno is the only player I'd rest, really. He's the only person I would rest in this coming week. But as you said, I would go with a very strong team, with regards to this game, because we do need 3 points. Because look, we do have Leipzig and PSG in Champions League left. So ideally, you'd want to be getting 3 points out of this. You only need to draw out 2 games. Ideally, that's what you'd need. I think it's 3 points out of this. It'd be massive, because
it's like what you're saying. I think that like the obviously we've discussed the West Brom thing, but just sort of going on that a minute. I think like the likes of Cavani and Donny van de Beek, they're the games that they should be playing. I know he's not 100% fit, but I'd like to see him start tomorrow against Başakşehir, and I don't think we necessarily get the best out of Telles playing him at left back either. I see Telles more as a wing back. He definitely had the freedom to play that role at Porto. I know we'll touch on the lineup a little bit later, so I won't go into it too much. But any Man United player in our squad on that pitch with the right tactical game plan, we should be beating Başakşehir easily. Like they shouldn't be in our league, but I don't know if that's just a bit of naivety from me. I know it's a Champions League game; you never know what's going to happen. It's a one-off game over 6 games in the group, but I'd much rather have got 6 points against Başakşehir and not had to go into the Leipzig and the PSG games, because I know we beat them, particularly Leipzig, very comfortably, but they ain't going to be that bad next time. So it's a case of they're going to be well up for it when we're going over to Germany, and we've got to travel.
And fans could be back in at that stage as well. There's talks of fans obviously coming back now in the UK, and we'll touch on that in a moment, but that could be something that could be happening in Germany too. So we have to look at this. We have to go out and we have to get these 3 points. It's crucial that we do, because if we don't, we're in trouble, I think.
I think Leipzig, And PSG are in the same situation as us, where they need to win games. So, like the Leipzig game's not going to be an easy game. That'll be a tough game out there in Germany. They've got some of their injured players back, like Sabitzer, for example. I know he came on in the last sort of dying embers of the game last time, but he wasn't fit. He's one of their best players. So, and PSG we ain't gonna get them on another off night. They're gonna want to come to Old Trafford and beat us. And if we're being honest, they've got the players to do that. If they turn up, we're going to struggle. But we seem to be able to sort of turn it on at games like. But I think we're a better away team than we are at home at the moment. So it's a case of it swings and roundabouts. But I just think it was a massive opportunity lost in Turkey, and I just hope it don't come back to bite us eventually.
Yeah, 100%. So I suppose, look, before I get your score prediction, stuff like that from you, I'd like us to, like, in terms of your predicted 11, what you'd like to see tomorrow night. What would you like to see Ollie go with tomorrow night against Istanbul?
I think he'll probably stick to the formation that he's been playing. So I'll just base it off of that. I probably wouldn't go with that myself, but I think he probably will go for that. So I'd obviously go for. I'd like to see Tellez at left back again. I think he'll get a little bit more joy against the European club. Get a bit more space, maybe a little bit more time on the ball, so he can sort of put his passing game and get some crosses into the boxes. I'd like to see Tellez at left back. I think he'll go with Maguire and Lindelof. I think they've done all right, to be fair to them, in the past. Probably over the last month, I think they've probably done a little bit better with regards to how they're playing. Longer term, it definitely needs change. I think that's the two I would go with. I quite like Tuanzebe. I'm a big fan of Tuanzebe. I'd quite happily see him next to one of them. But I think he'll probably go with Maguire and Lindelof. I probably would go with the same, to be honest with you. I think he'll play Aaron at right back. I'd go with that as well. But from my opinion, I'd like to see 4-3-3. But I don't think that's going to happen. But I'll base it off of what I would go with. I'd go with a midfield of. I'd go with Pogba. I'd go with Fred, because I think he always turns up in Europe, and I think the European game suits Fred's game a little bit more sometimes in the Premier League. He doesn't usually have a bad game in Europe. I'd either go him or McTominay. I'd play Pogba in the pivot. I think he's sort of get the ball a little bit more deeper, be able to influence the game from a more deeper position, and sort of progress with the ball when he gets it. I'd like Donny in the hole. I'd go with, funnily enough, I would go with Marshall on the left. I would go with Cavani up front, and I would probably go for a Mata on the right, just to try and balance the team off. That wouldn't be the team I would like to see. That would be the team I'd base it off with the thinking of what do I think Ollie's going to go with. I'd like to see Rashford on the right, Tony on the left, and Cavani up as the centre forward with Donny just behind him. But I don't particularly think Rashford can play that role for some reason. He's got a great right foot, and he doesn't seem comfortable on the right-hand side of the field. I don't really know, but I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we see a Dan James or someone tomorrow. I really wouldn't. You never know who's going to play, and I think the weekend sort of stuck out at that right wing issue again. I don't think Matt had his best game at all, and Matt against certain types of team, and teams that play a low block with two banks of four matters no good in games like that. So like if it was up to me tomorrow and I was picking the team, I'd go for a free at the back, two wing backs, two midfielders, a progressive playmaker, and the two strikers up front, purely for the fact of let Aaron do his work down the right, and try and get Tellez on the ball in a more advanced area of the pitch, because his delivery is quality. And I'd probably go with Rashford and Cavani option up front, because I feel like although Cavani's a very good finisher, he doesn't necessarily have the pace to run in behind, whereas I feel that Rashford does. And Tony is a completely different player. Tony ain't going to run in behind. He likes the ball to feet. He likes to sort of hold the defender off and bring another player into play. That's just the way he plays. Whereas I feel like if you're going with a a 5-back, so to speak, with 2 wing backs. You've got to have a progressive runner out the one or the 2 strikers, and I feel like Rashford's the only person in the squad that can do that. Dan James is obviously the fastest player in the team, but he's not. He can't play up front. So, but honestly, I've been thinking about it all day, thinking about what the lineup's going to be, and I generally don't ever know what team he's going to put out.
Yeah, like look, there's some interesting points there. Like, and obviously, like, look, it'd be interesting to see whether Cavani gets a start, because he hasn't got a start yet, and I think he deserves that. I think he's shown in the games he's played that he's someone who can challenge this forward line, and we have competition for places there.
Yeah.
For me, my team is Dean Henderson in goal. Again, I think this is another chance to give Dean Henderson to go in the Champions League.
Yeah, I missed the goalkeeper. I would go with the same as well, mate.
Though he didn't do too much in the last game wrong. So look, I'd like to see Dean come back in there. Even though David De Gea, I have to say, has been exceptional this season. He's starting to rediscover form, and I think that's due to Dean Henderson actually being at the club.
Yeah.
So pushing for his number 1. So I think that this would be another game to kind of, I suppose, outline the quality we have in the goalkeeping department. So definitely, I'd like to see Dean Henderson get a run in there today. At right back, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, again, look, that's undisputed. No one's going to challenge him at the club, I think, for the next year or 2 anyway, until Ethan Laird comes up from the outranks. I think Aaron Wan-Bissaka pretty much has that position nailed down, at right back, in that respect. At centre back, I would go with Lindelof and Maguire as well. I think, though, low key, Victor Lindelof has actually been quite good in the last couple of games.
Yeah.
I know at the start of the season, you can go back. People who watch this podcast regularly, and if you're watching for the first time, you can go back on the channel. And I was calling for Victor Lindelof to be dropped. He did get dropped, but since he's come back into the team, he's actually been quite solid at centre back. So look, I commend him for that. He's been pretty decent in the last couple of games. Even though, like, look, football is such a reactionary sport. He can be playing good for a couple of games, and then look, yourself, one bad game and we're all down his throat again. So yourself, that's just the way it is. Harry Maguire, again, I think he's another player who's come back into the side recently. He's someone who's picked up a bit of consistency in his performances, so that's kind of good to see. And so I'm happy to see Harry Maguire back on form, and though he's starting to justify his place in the team, and because there was many calls for him to be dropped as well. So look, I'm happy to see him back on form. And again, this decision for me is undisputed. Even when Luke Shaw is fit, Alex Telles at left back, fantastic player, great going forward. And I think in this game, in the last game against Istanbul, Luke Shaw, I know got an assist in that game, but he didn't cross it in enough. I know he got 1 assist, but there was times where he kept coming back inside where he could have whipped in the ball. So when we have a player like Telles who's constantly going to do that, that's going to be very good for us in terms of progressing our play. Yeah. In that respect. So I'm gonna go with what I'd like to see, not what I think is going to happen. Because if I say what I think is going to happen, it's going to be Fred McTominay in midfield. But I don't want that to happen against a team like Istanbul. We're at home. We need 3 points. We need to be going strong. So for me, I would go with Fred in the holding midfield position, and we're playing 4-3-3. And Fred played in that position against Seville in the Europa League, in the semi-final. I know we lost that game, but Fred was the best player in the pitch that day for us. Unbelievable in that holding midfield role. So that's something, again, I'd like to see. Especially, as you said, in Europe, he's had some of his best performances in the United shirt in Europe. So why not play Fred there? The right side of the midfield three in the pivot there, I'm going to put Donny van de Beek. Again, look, he should be starting every week. For some reason he's not. And look, I'm puzzled by it. I really am. But look, #free Donny is trending on Twitter, so I'm trending on that too, lads. Don't worry, I'm getting that trending.
Just think it's the formation, mate, that Ollie's picking, and he's going with Bruno, and that's as simple as that at the moment. There's a lot of debate on Twitter about it, and I'm in that free Donny camp as well. But if he's going to stick with them defensive-minded pivots in front of the back too, Donny's not going to play at the moment. The fan base don't like it. I don't like it, but he ain't going to change Bruno. And let's be honest, we're Bruno FC at the moment, isn't we? He's the best player we've got by a mile. Do you know what I mean? So it is a difficult one. I do feel for Donny van de Beek, but it's games like this and games like West Brom and your Aston
Where he
Villas.
should be starting.
Yeah, he needs to be playing him. Yeah, but I think he's in a bit of a catch-22 at the moment in his own head, Ollie. He's like sort of getting a lot of stick for the fan base. I need to be a bit more braver. But on the other hand, if I lose 2 on the bounce, could be out of a job here. Like, I think he's got in his head, look, I'll do it my way. And if it doesn't work, at least I know I did it my way. And I didn't necessarily do something I wasn't comfortable with. And I think Donny and Paul, to a certain extent, are the casualties of that. But
yeah. 100%, and look, it is a catch-22 for Ollie. It really is. For me, the other player in the midfield, left side of the tree, is Paul Pogba. Again, I said earlier on the show, I think Bruno Fernandes needs a rest.
Yeah.
We're playing him in every single game, and eventually, as we're seeing with Liverpool, eventually that's going to take its toll. Yeah. And a game like this, Bruno could be on the bench. You've seen against Leipzig when he was on the bench, he came on and absolutely turned the game on its head. He can still play this game, but I don't think he should start. Just because we need to wrap that man in cotton wool. He's been our best player. We need to wrap him up in cotton wool.
Yeah.
And don't worry, Bruno FC will continue for our watchers. Don't worry. The Bruno prediction probably won't be on this show, but it'll be on the weekend show.
Keane will keep the propaganda going.
Keep the propaganda going, yeah. I thought I was actually banned off Facebook Messenger in one of the group chats. You're in one of the groups that I'm in. And I wasn't allowed to send pictures into the group chat. No, it was just my app updating, right? But I was paranoid saying, what's after happening? I must have been blocked or something, And Steve messaged in and said, you've been blocked for all your Bruno Fernandes.
I tell you, I was effing and blinding the other day, though, mate. I'll be honest with you. I love Bruno Fernandes. Like, I watched him so much at Sporting Lisbon, and my friend Rogerio was like, you need to watch this player. Trust me, like, that Sporting Lisbon attacking midfielder, man, you're interested. And I was like, paying quite a lot of attention to him. I just thought he's the perfect player. I just knew he was going to fit in straight away with the way that he plays the game. But I tell you, like, and I love him to pieces. I think he's fantastic, but I nearly threw my remote through the telly when he done that silly little hop and missed that penalty. If he didn't get it again, I would have been furious. I was like, why does he keep doing that little hop? Like,
do you know before the penalty's been taken, right? I'm in a group on WhatsApp, right? And the minute the penalty is awarded, everyone was saying, Keane, it's coming, And I was there, right? I was ready. I had the message wrote into the weekly armchair group chat, right? Had Bruno the message ready, right? And then he misses the penalty, so I'm there backspacing.
It's a Portuguese thing, mate. I tell you, it's a Portuguese thing because I spent a lot of time watching Benfica. My friend's a Benfica fan, so when I was a bit younger, I know I've told you this before, I used to watch quite a lot of Benfica. I still do, to be honest. And you'll probably remember him because you're a sort of football connoisseur like myself and like to sort of know all about the European teams. But do you remember Simão Sabrosa?
No.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture of him in the group chat. You'll know who I'm on about. And he used to he was great at penalties, and he always used to sort of stutter and let the goalie move and then hit it. And he was brilliant at them. He sort of used to leave his leg out a little bit. I'll send you a video of one of his penalties. You'll know him straight away when you see him. And he used to do it, and I kind of used to try and model that. I used to try and sort of try the little flary bits from, like, I used to love players like Ricardo Quaresma and that's my style of play, I can't get away with that style of play now because I'm 31 years old. But when I was 17, 18, I was a box of tricks on a football field. And I used to love the way like Quaresma and Ronaldo played. And people always used to say to me, you're overplaying. But over time, I got better at it. I'm quite comfortable with step overs and that on the football pitch. I can beat players like that. And I used to love it. I used to think, this is great, but I don't know. Like, a lot in Portugal with these penalties, and honestly, I just always think to myself, as soon as I see him stepping up, Bruno, I'm like, do you know what? Please put your foot through it. Like, we can't afford to not score this goal.
He does put his foot through it sometimes.
But do you know what it is? I sit here and whinge about the first miss, but when he's got some balls on him, Bruno, like to go up there and take a penalty straight after you've just missed one. That takes a lot of balls and steel up here, and fair play to him. And he's been a revelation, ain't he? I know I'm all for the propaganda, man. Keep it going. The other fans hate it as well, don't they, man?
Oh, you know what?
I love it, man.
I boil so much piss on social media, Bruno Fernandes, on a weekly basis. It's unbelievable. Do you know?
Manchester United, I love it, man. You love to see it, don't you?
Absolutely. I was going to come to a couple of comments on the Facebook Live there.
Yeah.
Callum O'Mara, Liverpool fan, just said, "Who will take your penalty if Bruno Fernandes isn't around?" Well,
there you go.
Callum,
there you go.
You're a Liverpool fan. Callum's a Liverpool fan who called him Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, he's better than any midfielder you have. And Dale O'Donnell, shout out to Dale. He says he scores most penalties, no complaints. Yeah, absolutely. You know, Bruno is a fantastic penalty taker and a footballer too. You know, and all you rival fans, you wish you had him in your side. So keep supporting the podcast and keep supporting Bruno Fernandes. This fills me with more propaganda to spread out.
It.
Absolutely. So obviously, I'm going to get through the rest of my starting 11. I know we went on about.
Sorry, it went off on one there.
There, so I'm going to carry on with my. You're all right. So yeah, I'm going to go to the rest of my starting 11. So with regards to this, on the right hand side, I'm going to go with Mason Greenwood. He's been back in training recently. Love to see him get back into the team now. So get down to his bread and butter, which is scoring goals. Get him into the team, get a couple of goals tomorrow night, and get them headlines in there for banging in the goals and for the talent that he is on the pitch, because he's a fantastic boy and he's a fantastic player. So Joe, I hope to see Mason back on the pitch tomorrow. On the left, I'm going to play over Anthony Martial. I think Marcus Rashford's another player who recently had a knock off the international break, and he didn't really look fit on the weekend. Looked like he's still kind of carrying a knock. So he's like Marcus for me. Is like, he's another player, who need to be wrapped up in cotton wool. I think him and Bruno are probably the only two players really at the moment who we call kind of our best players at the moment and top performers. So I would like to see Marcus get a rest and get Martial kind of go out on the left and see what he can do from there. And then up front, then I'm going to go with Edinson Cavani. Again, he's a player who I think he's in his appearances since he's come on, he's shown what we kind of lack sometimes in a number 9 in terms of like his movement off the ball and kind of positions he gets in to score. So it'd be good to see kind of Cavani come in and maybe stake a claim for that number 9 shirt and kind of challenge Martial for that, because Martial hasn't been on the best of form this season. So we need to see someone challenge him. I think if Cavani can come in and score a goal or two, it'll only push Martial to play better as well. Because you see that at any team in Europe at the moment, they have about 3 or 4 forwards to kind of push all the forwards in their roles. Like you have City, obviously they've like Sterling, Mahrez, Jesus, Bernardo Silva. So they've plenty of players there to kind of push all their forwards. There's always great competition for places. You obviously have the other crowd, Liverpool, then who like look at Firmino, who was always a guaranteed starter in that number 9 role, and since Jota has come in, like he's kind of pushed Firmino in that role, and Firmino even got a goal last night, you've seen. So like again, that shows what competition places you do. Even look at Chelsea as well. Like Chelsea have plenty of competition for places in their forward role as well. Spurs again, they've Bale, they've Son, they've Kane, they've Lucas Moura, Bergwijn, Vinicius. Like they've a lot of players there as well. Arsenal are probably the only team, probably as well as us, probably who don't have that great kind of competition for places in and around the top sides in terms of the forward areas. So for me, you'd have to look at it and say, I think Cavani coming into the team this week and maybe getting on the score sheet would push a Greenwood, would push a Martial to start playing a bit better, and he's an experienced head as well. The younger lads can only learn off him. Jack Doherty from Wexford FC called us a bottom of the table side. And Jack, we came off the bottom half the table this week with our dismal win against West Brom. So we're no longer a bottom half team anymore. So that's Jack. I love you. You're sound out, one of my friends, but you're incorrect there tonight. We're on the top half.
Take that, Jack.
we're in the top half now. We're in the top half. We're not in the bottom half of the table anymore.
It's funny you mention like attacking intent as well, because before the season started and everyone had made their moves, I actually tweeted that United should sign Jota, and I got a couple of comments like, "Are you serious? Like he plays for Wolves and now he's like sort of scoring goals for fun at Liverpool." But What do I know about football, Keane, eh?
Do you know what though, right? I'm not a Liverpool fan, right? And I never will be. And I never will kind of support Liverpool in the match. I was sickened when Shota scored that goal yesterday. I was absolutely sickened. And then sure, I looked at my fantasy football and Robertson linked with Shota, sure, didn't he? And I had to take him in my fantasy. So I was like, I hate you cunts, but you're after giving me. I was up to 79 points yesterday, and that's not even before the Wolves game tonight. So, I'm flying it this week anyway. So I know one of the lads who's playing me in the weekly armchair league is absolutely getting smashed off me this week. So thanks, Liverpool, for nothing, but thanks. So obviously, like, look, we've looked into the Istanbul game, and we've given our kind of starting 11 what we kind of want to see, and we've kind of looked into the game in terms of that. But a player who plays for Istanbul, and he was a fantastic footballer, and he's making his return to Old Trafford tomorrow for the first time since he's left the club, is Rafael da Silva, a player with West United fans who's held in kind of high regard for kind of the passion he showed on the pitch for Man United. In terms of Rafael, like, what would be one of your favourite memories of Rafael for Manchester United in terms of the goals, kind of big moments in games? Kind of what are your kind of favourite moments of Rafael?
Do you know what it is? He did score some decent, some cracking goals. I remember his volley was about but when I think of Rafael, you cannot help but smile, can you? Like, he just got the club, didn't he? Like, he's just this little Samba Brazilian kid that come in with curly hair, the same as his brother, and then he just got it, didn't he? Like, he just, I don't know, he just, I was a bit worried when sort of Gary Neville started sort of losing a yard or two and started not starting games, and I thought, who's going to be? Gary Neville's been brilliant for years. Like, who are we going to sort of replace him with? We're going to have to go out and maybe buy a Thuram or someone like that at the time. And then Rafael come in and he just got it, didn't he? He just took that Brazilian sort of. I always say that Brazilian players have got a spiky side in them as well. They're not just technically good football players. They've got a little bit of aggression as well. Maybe it's from the way they're brought up or something like that. I don't really know, but you don't really get a Brazilian player that won't kick out at someone. And I remember the whole when he went to Manchester City and the whole banner and all that sort of welcome to Manchester stuff. And then when sort of Tevez was playing against us, I remember sort of Rafael straight in his face, and I thought, yes, do you know what? That's his ex-teammate, but he's done the dirty on the club, and he's sort of right in their face. And I just used to like. I used to love when you seen his name on the sheet. You thought, yeah, a little bit of passion on the right, man. Like, and he's got I can think of so many different moments, but I just loved his passion. Like, I still love him. I absolutely love him, man, because he cared. He's another Evra, you know. He still cares so much about the team, like, and you can't help appreciate that from a player that comes from a different country. And hasn't been brought up like me and yourself, like a Man United fan since birth, to come into that environment and have that amount of love, like Evra, like any United fan. Rafael's the same because they care about the club. It's much more than just a football shirt that they wore for a few years to them. They really love the club, you know, and he's got obviously some great memories. He scored some really good goals, as I say. I remember his volley he scored, which was an absolute perler. But every time I think of Rafael, I just smile and think, what a little player. And then I just absolutely loved his passion for the badge. Like, that meant everything to me. Like, you can be great at football, you can be skillful, you can be this, you can be that. But sometimes I just like to see a player that just cares, and just he ain't gonna let that man get 2 yards on him. He's gonna put him in the air because Man United's his life, and he loves the club just as much as I do. I think that makes a massive difference. There's not necessarily players in our squad, but there's definitely players in other teams in the Premier League where you can just tell the team doesn't mean nothing to them. And it's hard as a supporter because obviously we'd play for the club for nothing, you know. So it's nice when you see somebody that does really care. And that's my gripe with the likes of Pogba and that sometimes. They've got all the ability in the world, but sometimes it's not about ability. It's about working hard and running and putting giving everything to the cause. It's not about a 50-yard pass that splits open the two centre-backs and you play in Rashford and we score it. They're great moments, but 9 times out of 10, I'd prefer somebody that's going to sort of give me 110%, be a 9 out of a 10 for effort every single week, and that's 100% what you got. It's just a shame that the fans ain't there for him. I wish they were, because I'm sure he'd get a fantastic reaction. I'm sure we'd sing the song for him.
Yeah, like I could actually imagine the reception he would have got at Old Trafford tomorrow night if he was playing. I think the reception he would have got would have been outstanding. It would have been great. For me, my favourite, well, I have two kind of, in terms of goals, my two favourite goals of Rafael. The one at Anfield stands out, obviously, like, you know, the fact that he came in on his left foot and stuck it in top bins, like, you know, that was a fantastic goal. And the one at QPR was an absolute rocket. That was an absolute peach goal for a right back.
That's the one I was on about. Yeah, I couldn't think of who it was against there, but that's the one that I was on about. Absolute power.
Yeah, it was against QPR. Yeah, do you know what though? Like, you look at he was a player who kind of like he was all about the badge. Like, do you know what I mean? He really did play for the badge.
Yeah.
Like, he did play for the shirt. Like, even when, as I said, like when Tevez left the club and the way Tevez did, and you know, when Rafael then like first came up against him, really did show like, look, you're not going to swear on the show, but you know what you are type of person. You know, you're a traitor. You know, that's what Rafael like got in his face and basically told him that. You know, and you know, it's good to see that he's going to get a chance to come back to Old Trafford, albeit in the circumstances that we're in, you know.
Yeah, it's a shame. I bet you he's gutted about it as well, to be fair. I think if you sort of had him 1-to-1 and you said to him, how do you know fans, he's probably absolutely gutted, you know, because I think when he's seen that draw, he'd be thinking, yes, man, get there in front of the Old Trafford faithful and get my send-off, because he never really got one, did he, you know? And
like, Van Gaal just got rid of him, and that was it. Like, you know, and there was no send off. There was no. He didn't get the send off what he deserved. You know, and it's a shame. It's really a shame, because he deserves so much more from the club. You know, and like it's a shame now that he's not going to get the send off that he is. But look, at the same time, you know, he'll We will get hopefully. I suppose the most important thing tomorrow, I know we're not going to be sentimental here, Ranton, but the most important thing is that we're going to go and try to get the 3 points tomorrow, because that's what's the most important thing. Winning, like, I think the room for sentiment, like being sentimental at the club, that needs to go. That genuinely needs to go now, because when people are talking about the manager, people can talk about kind of United, what way they want to talk about, but at the end of the day, we need to start getting results and need to be like in a position to challenge. That's ultimately where we want to be. So we can talk about club legends. You can talk about kind of what they did for the club, but you do need players, and you do need quality at the club. Callum O'Mara has just commented there. Players like Rafael is what you need in your team. Absolutely, like, you need players. Yeah. Like, I know they get labelled passion merchants, but if you have a bit of quality and you have passion as well, like, that's what you need. Like Bruno Fernandes.
That's it.
You can have passion merchants. Like, let's get this way. Ashley Young was a passion merchant. He really was. He wasn't that good, but you could see when he put in effort every time he put on a United shirt. You know, Ander Herrera was another one. Like, he did have a small bit of quality about him, but you knew when he was on the pitch, he was someone. You know, he was he had a bit of quality about him, but you know, he was someone who did have passion as well. And Paul said Herrera was one of them, but we let him go. But I think we've replaced him, Paul, with someone a lot better than Bruno Fernandes, to be quite frank about that. I think Bruno's been
completely different players, ain't they? Different players, different roles, different styles of play. But I think to a certain extent, what the problem is, Keane, with, like, people don't remember Ashley Young when we first signed him. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was a really good winger that could get to the byline and put a good ball in, you know. Valencia was the same to a certain extent, but United have hoarded players for years, and that's the problem. And we're still doing it now. Like, it's like we've got some sort of agreement that we've got to hoard on players. We've done it for years. We had John O'Shea and Darren Fletcher.
Is the board and the ownership of the club. Like, there's no direction there. You know, there's not. There's no direction there. The lack of director of football, like the lack of director of football, is killing us. Because if the director of football there,
yeah, sorry, go on. I'll wait until you've made your point.
Like, if you have a director of football there, you don't hoard players. You have a clear recruitment policy, and that's our problem. We don't have a recruitment policy. We don't. That's what's a massive problem.
It is, because you can't bring new players in when there's no room in the squad, and you've got players like, to a certain extent, as much as I loved him, Wes Brown was at United too long. He wasn't good enough towards the end of his career, but he was probably there for 2 years too long. John O'Shea was the same. I mean, I was chatting to John O'Shea probably about a year ago in one of the bars in Newcastle. He was out having a bit of food, and I obviously spotted him being a United fan. And had a little bit of chatter with him about his United days, and that absolutely lovely guy. I know being Irish as well, that's why I mention it. But he was there too long, like Darren Fletcher, to a certain extent, tried his hardest, was never a Man United player, like quality-wise.
I disagree now. I disagree with that, Darren Fletcher.
I'm not saying he wasn't good enough to be at the club. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying he was a certain type of player, and he sort of maybe should have been moved on a bit sooner than he was, and we're still seeing it now. It happened with Ashley Young. It's happening with Phil Jones, with Rojo. We're just hoarding players, and I just don't understand it. It's like Romero. If he's not going to play, why not let the boy go and play? I like Romero. I'm a big fan of Romero. I don't like the way we've treated him, to be honest. I think it's not nice. But it's just one of them. But Man U have been that club for years where they've just held on to players that are not good enough for too long, instead of just taking them to the side and saying, do you know what? I don't have a future for you here, Phil. I'm sorry. You're a good servant. It hasn't worked out. You haven't become the player that we thought you were going to be. We've got Twanzebe, we've got Victor, we've got Harry in the squad now that are all going to be starting before you. Go out and play football. But it's like you say, it's just bad decisions from the top. They give Phil Jones a new contract a couple of years ago. For what? He hasn't been good enough for 5 years. So it's just stupid little mistakes like that. And people talk about the Sanchez deal and him stealing a living and stealing wages from us. They're doing it with Romero. They're doing it with Rojo. They're doing it with Phil Jones and players like that. It's just it's got to change longer term. That's got to change. It's a massive problem, and everybody touches on recruitment at United, but you can only bring in a certain amount of players if you've got a full squad already. Yeah.
And Paul Fitzgerald, who has just commented there again, and he loves this player who he's commenting about. He said it's happening with Pogba. To be fair, look, we all have an opinion on Paul Pogba. I've done enough shows on Paul Pogba. Yeah. Let's be honest, he's probably not going to be at the club in the summer. So
I don't think he wants. What's the guy's name? Sorry,
Paul.
Paul. His name's Paul as well. Okay.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Paul, nobody questions Pogba's footballing ability, and I think you're probably right. What's happening to him at the moment, but his attitude's not there. Sometimes he doesn't want to know, and I don't particularly think he wants to be at the club. I think if he can get a move, he will do. I don't, hand on heart, don't think he would have been at the club now if the coronavirus wouldn't have happened. I think he would have been gone already. So it's just. The way that I described it a few weeks ago when I was on All for United, it's like a relationship, that's not working. And you just sort of try and plod on with your missus and hope that something comes back and that candle lights in you again. It does, when it's out, it's out. And I think that's what's happening. It's just a love affair that's the only way I can describe it. It's trying to repair a relationship where there's no love anymore. That's just probably a weird analogy of using, but I don't know if that answers Paul's question. But
no, but I agree. But I think for me, he's probably going to be gone in the summer anyway. Because the way I look at it is, Euros is in the summer. So what'll probably be happening here is, and I'm just spitballing here, right? But what I think what happens is, he goes to Euros. He has a great Euros for France because, look, he's surrounded by absolute quality. Kante will make him look like $1 million, or $89 million, as they'd say. And he'll go to Euros. He'll play well. And what'll happen is Real Madrid or someone like that will come calling, and I think he'll leave in the summer.
Good luck to him if he goes to Real Madrid, because look what's happened to Hazard. You know, look how good he was in the Premier League, and he looks half the player out there, and the media are criticising him. He's overweight. Like, so good luck to him if he goes over there. Do you know what it is? I kind of hope he does go over there, so they'll understand that it isn't Man United's issue; it's the players' attitude. Sometimes I think we get criticised a lot for the Pogba situation as a club, but I go back to when I played football. Sometimes you've got to look in the mirror, man, and say, do you know what, Matt? Why am I being left out the team here? I've been there. I was a bit of a different style of football player to your traditional English player. I know I touched on it earlier, the way my game was based around a skillful sort of player, and some managers didn't like it. And I always had to do a bit of soul searching and think, why am I being left out here all the time? Like, I'm scoring goals, I'm creating goals, and sometimes it was because I just didn't track back and I didn't put the work in off the ball. And I only appreciate it now that I look at football and analyze it on sort of channels with yourself, like people like yourself. Maybe sometimes I didn't work hard enough, because I think that's the problem with Pogba. Sometimes I get the impression sometimes he don't want to do the hard things. You know, he doesn't want to track back. He doesn't want to put the effort in and really. And I generally do fit. I agree with you. I think his head's somewhere else. And I heard a little rumor. I don't know whether it's true. It was just sort of on a little sort of video I seen on Twitter earlier. I can't even remember who it was by, but I heard a rumor that apparently Juventus need to get Ronaldo's wages off the books. So if that's the case, and if United can sort of maybe do a swap deal, I know United traditionally don't do deals like that, but I'd be all up for something like that. There's a couple of players in the Juventus team I would take if we can't get Ronaldo, like Bentancur, really good midfielder, quality midfielder. I like Dybala. I know he's a bit of a split opinion. I quite like him.
He doesn't play ahead of Bruno.
Yeah, even Matthias de Ligt. I know he ain't really had the sort of season that everybody thought he was going to have. Maybe there's something to be done there. It's both Riola's players. Maybe if he takes one off of us, he can give us one back. I don't know, but I'm a firm believer. Like I said a few minutes ago, I don't think he'd be there if clubs had the financial money before the COVID-19 situation. I don't think he would be here, to be honest. And I think if you took Ollie into a quiet room where there was sort of no ears and asked him if he wanted him at the club, he'd probably say no, you know. So undoubtedly fantastic player, got all the ability in the world, but I don't know if he really wants it at Man United. I feel like we're in a transitional period, and I don't think Pogba's in the point of his career where he wants to be part of a rebuild team. I think he wants to go into a team that's the finished article. So if that's the case, then good luck to him.
Yeah, like, look, for me, we'll see kind of what happens. I think after the Euros he'll be gone. I firmly believe that. I think you're right. It's probably one of the reasons why Van de Beek was signed as well. I think that's why I think Ollie's probably telling him, probably on the side, like, look, you're gonna get into the team. It's a matter of when, not if. Do you know? I think that's probably what he's saying to him. Then again, will Ollie be here by next summer? We just don't know. Do you know, with the whole kind of rumors that are there, but. To be fair, one thing I'd like to ask you, Jamie, obviously with regards to all of this, with United at the moment, kind of with the way the table is going, like a lot of teams are kind of dropping points. It's mad to say that if we win our game in hand against Burnley, we're in like 4 points. We're 4 points off the top or something. We're 4 or 5 points off the top. It's crazy. Like, well, obviously we're not going to be like in a title race. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near a title race. We're a couple of years off a title race. Like, let's get that straight. But I think if we win that game in hand anyway, like we're in the realm of the top four. Do you know what I mean? I think for Ollie, he needs to keep picking up results, because if he doesn't keep picking up results, he's going to be gone. Because what the board look at is, we're not going to get that Champions League money, because we know the board aren't interested in winning leagues anymore. They're interested in getting into the Champions League. And if they're not getting to the Champions League, they're going to sack him. They're going to make him their scapegoat. Let's be frank about that, you know. Now, I know there's people watching this, and I know who are watching, who are Ollie out. You know, look, I'm not going to disparage their opinion. For me, like, again, what I am is, I don't think he's the man to take us to a title. I think we should be as a club, because we're a big football club, we should be challenging for titles. We shouldn't be we shouldn't sit for mid-table mediocrity. You know what I mean? Like, that's not what we should be settling for. And for me, at Manchester United, you need the best in class. Is Ollie best in class? No, he isn't. Let's get that frank. No, he isn't. But I want him to succeed because he's a club legend. You know, like, and I love him for what he's done for the club. But regardless of what happens, it's not going to take away what he's done for the club as a player. And I think people looking at Ollie is like, you know, they're having proper hate for Ollie. You know, like, I don't agree with that. I don't. And some of the stuff you see online is ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. You know, it really is. Paul commented there, we shouldn't be nervous going into West Brom games. Paul, if you've been watching since the start of the show, I did say that. I did say that we shouldn't be playing 2 holding midfielders at home against West Brom. You know, again, Ollie probably thinks because of their counter-attacking threat in the previous games that they had against Spurs and Chelsea, that's probably why he looked at that and probably thought himself, I can't lose my job. Because Jamie said it earlier, he's probably a loss or two away from losing his job.
I'll tell you where I stand on it, Keane, with the whole Solskjaer thing. I'm not one to sit on the fence. If you go through some of my tweets of the past before I sort of started coming on these fan channels, I'm quite a vocal Man United fan. If I've got something to say, I'll say it. I don't really care about the consequences. It's just my opinion. I like to think that's the way I am on these shows as well. Obviously, you've got to be a bit more diplomatical with what you're saying, but this is my take on it, and I'll try and keep it brief as well because I know you sort of maybe want to get away. But I'm not Ollie in, and I'm not Ollie out. And people are going to say you've just contradicted yourself because you're sitting on the fence. But I'll tell you why I'm not Ollie in and I'm not Ollie out. I don't think he's the right man longer term. I'll be totally honest. He came in to do a job. I feel like he's done it. I don't see how much more progression we can make under him unless he gets world-class football players, which ain't going to happen. I'm talking about your Sanchos, your Mbappes. If United board are going to go and give him them sort of players, yeah, keep him. But Chelsea have heavily backed Lampard because he's got insecurities. He's inexperienced. He needs good footballers for him to get the experience and ride the storm. The reason why I'm not Ollie in and not Ollie out is because there is a culture of social media. There is a culture within our fan base that, like you said, do want to see us lose games so he gets the sack. I for the life of me, I just don't get that. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, they shouldn't be doing that. Each to their own. I'm not that guy. I'm not going to start being that guy telling people what they should and shouldn't do. I'm not about that. So if they want to do that, that's absolutely fine. Longer term, I think we do need a better manager. We need a more experienced manager. We need a manager that's got an A, B, C, and D plan. I don't necessarily think Ollie's got that. He's going for his tried and trusted at the moment, purely for the fact that mentioned earlier, he's petrified about losing his job. This is the creme de la creme for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's never going to get a job like this ever again. So he's got one chance at it, and then once it's gone, it's gone. And you'll probably see him rocking back up at Mulder or someone like that. Maybe he'll get a smaller gig in England somewhere. I don't personally think he will, but this is his big chance, and he's been given a bit more time than some people would think. He's got a couple of things right, moving on the likes of Lukaku, Sanchez. I think he's done well. His recruitment's not been too bad. I think he probably made a mistake paying so much money for Maguire, but I'll not really go into that. It's not a dig at Harry. It's just the price tag was just too much.
Leicester kind of they took us to the cleaners from Maguire. They really did, like.
100%. But he looked a fantastic player at the World Cup for England and Leicester, and I thought I'd love to see him at Man United. But when they started talking about 80 million, I was like, goodness me. But longer term, I don't think. I think there is going to be a time frame with Ollie, and some fans might not like to hear it. The ones that are sort of Ollie in. I do think that it will come to an end eventually. I just think the lack of progression will start eating the fan base away, and you've got your staunch Ollie inners, and that's fine. I'm never going to be that guy that comes on here and slates Ollie because I won't do it on any platform I'm on. I'll criticize him when he gets it wrong, and I can differentiate between the player and the manager, which is, I think, is very important. I think a lot of people don't like hearing people criticize Ollie because they're obsessed with Ollie the player. No, Ollie the player and Ollie the manager are two different human beings. And I'm not going to treat them the same. If he makes a mistake managerial wise, I'll criticize him. I ain't sitting on the fence with stuff like that. I'm very, very vocal.
This is the thing, right? And you've been bang on with this. You've been absolutely bang on. But what happens when he does something well? These same people will not praise him, though. That's so kind of like, if you're going to be consistent when you criticize him, be consistent when we perform as well.
Yeah, that's it. Just take every game. I think that United fans just overanalyze things, man. We're going to have bad performances. We're going to win games scrappy. We're going to get draws against teams we should beat. We're going to drop points at Old Trafford. It's just the way it is. Like, we are, whether you like it or not, and I don't particularly like the situation we're in at the moment, but bad recruitment over the last 10 years is the reason why we've got the squad we've got now. Mistake after mistake after mistake with appointed managers. We've got Abdul put the nail on the head last night on All for United. We've got 3 different groups of players there from 3 different style of managers, and Ollie's trying to work them into what he wants to do. It's a process, and you've got to move the players on that don't fit them, and you've got to bring the right players in. But the issue, as it always seems to be, whether you're Ollie in, whether you're Ollie out, whether you want a new manager, that's all great. But if the manager that's at the club isn't physically backed financially and allowed to go and build his own squad over 2 to 3 years, like, what do people want? Do they want? And I know your side of the fence, Keane, and your opinions are spot on as well with regards to your longer term vision. I know you like Pochettino, so do I. But what do we just want to sort of be that sacking club all the time, every couple of years, that it's not going to quite go to plan and we're not challenging for titles, so we're just going to sack the next manager? I don't want to be that club. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be a Chelsea that has a different manager every couple of seasons and don't really care about what reputation the manager has. If they've not won this, they're out the door. It comes down to the fundamentals. Whether you like Ollie or not, he wasn't backed in the summer. He didn't get the players that he wanted to get. And you can criticize him as much as you want. And as I say, I ain't going to sit here and say you're wrong for doing it. If you're Ollie out, crack on. I'm not going to judge you for it. But at the end of the day, it's like sending a plumber to go and fix a leak with the wrong tools. You know, like, the plumber needs the right tools to sort the leak out. You know, and it's a case of, if you're not going to give the managers the funds, what chance has anybody got? And what more importantly, what's the club? How is the club going to progress if you're going to keep chopping and changing managers every summer? So that's why I'm sort of not Ollie out, like, because I'm a bit like, what are we trying to achieve here? Do we want a longer term vision and a longer term sort of structure? And I'm a firm believer in you can't appoint a manager and just be like, right, okay, so we'll see how it goes for the first year. We'll let him slide with that one, but after the second year, if it's not going, just get rid of him. I'm more of a bring the right manager in, give him the funds, and back him for the next 5 years. If it gets to the point where you've got no choice but to sack him, yeah, okay, that's just the way it goes with football. But I feel like maybe I'm stuck in a time warp as well, mate. But and I'll accept that if people listening maybe think this guy's sort of dreaming of another Sir Alex Ferguson situation. Yeah, I am. But I'm not under no illusion as well that doesn't exist no more. The Wengers and the Fergusons don't exist anymore, being at clubs for that long. But what I'm trying to say is I just don't want to get into that mentality of having a different manager every couple of years and then backing him for a couple of years, and then once the money dries up again, it's just a revolving door of negative planning, and it definitely comes from the top. But going back to the original point, I know I've sort of went off on one a little bit here, but I'm trying to give a little opinion as to why I'm thinking these things. But yeah, I definitely don't want to be that club, mate. You know, I honestly don't want to be that Chelsea where they're coming in and the manager's got different ideas, and Lampard had to get rid of Conte's players because they weren't his type of players, and they're trying to sort of recycle again. And and I don't want to be that club. But that doesn't mean I want to see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer longer term. It's just I would rather us, if we're going to get rid of Solskjaer, do it, but get a manager in for the longer term. Get a Nagelsmann or someone like that where there's a longer term project with them. But I don't know, mate. As I say, maybe I'm being naive, mate. I mean, if you think I am, you're more than welcome to tell me. Maybe that doesn't exist. Maybe it's only in my head.
I think if United are going to do this and they want to appoint another manager, you're saying you back him financially, you do it with a vision. I think you get Pochettino in there because he's someone who's done it over a 5-year period. He's done that with Spurs with minimal backing. Now imagine you give a manager like that backing. Like there's plenty of talent there already for him to work with. And then if you add add a bit of depth to that squad and actually get a bit of quality in there in key areas, I think Pochettino is a man who can take us forward and can definitely make progress. As you said, Nagelsmann's another person who could definitely do that as well. There is plenty of managers out there. It's just a situation, obviously. We both alluded to this point. I'm under no illusion. I don't think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is ever going to take us near to a Premier League title. Ever.
No, I don't. I don't.
But what you can't deny, and a Liverpool fan actually commented this a couple of minutes ago. A Liverpool fan commented this. So this wasn't a United fan or an Ollie inner. This was a Liverpool fan. Liverpool fan says he can't take away that Ollie's improved certain players, and he got a few young players of the likes of Brandon Williams and Mason Greenwood playing on a consistent basis. Like if that's what Ollie's remembered for, that's what he's most likely going to be remembered for, is bleeding through the likes of Greenwood, the likes of Brandon Williams. People can't deny he has improved Marcus Rashford as well. I think Marcus Rashford's game's improved massively since Ollie's come in as well. So I think you have your Ollie ins, you will have your Ollie outs. But at the end of the day, I'm just going to close it on this tonight. I think whether you're Ollie in or whether you're Ollie out, you want your team to win a football match, regardless how you feel about a manager. Because if you don't, you may as well find a different sport to watch. Watch curling or watch darts or something like that. Because at the end of the day, you're watching the wrong sport if you don't want your team to win.
Yeah, everybody's going to have opinions on that. And as I say, I know I've spoke to you sort of on camera and off camera about this, Keane, and it is an issue within the fan base at the moment. And to a certain extent, I don't think it helps the club and the club's image on social media either, with the whole sort of Ollie in and Ollie out. But I've got you on Twitter, Keane, and you've probably seen, I don't know if you did, but you've probably seen on Saturday night, I didn't tweet about the game at all. I put that it was a good 3 points and we'll move on. I was watching the boxing, I was watching Conor Benn fight, and I was tweeting about that because I just can't understand why, we've just won a game. I know it's not very pretty, and then I look and Ollie out's trending on Twitter, and I'm like, we've just won a game. Fair enough. Have an opinion of it if we've just got beat by them, but we've actually won the game, So, but as I say, everybody's entitled to their opinion. You know me, I'll interact with anybody on Twitter, and I'll never judge anybody if they're Ollie in or Ollie out. I get both sides of the coin because I've got my opinion as well, as I've sort of went over the last 10 minutes. I'm not Ollie in, I'm not Ollie out. I'm United, So United first before anything. So, yeah, it's a funny old situation, isn't it? But it's one that's good for channels like what we do. So it causes a bit of debate, and we can have a chat about it, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So lads, I'm going to wrap that up there for tonight. Though we've been on 1 hour and 13 minutes tonight, so it's actually got a lot longer than what I actually expected to go. But look, that's always good because there's always good conversation going. Again, I am back this Thursday on the Weekly Armchair Kickoff podcast. I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by Grant Campbell from Campbell's Footballs. So I was on his podcast as a guest a couple of weeks ago. So he's coming on here on Thursday. We'll be talking about his podcast. We'll be talking about Scottish football. We will be talking about Manchester United. And we'll obviously talk about the game that's just happened last night as well. So look, we will be talking a lot this Thursday as well. Also, the London Lowdown will be back this week also as well, because there is a big fixture as well this week between Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur as well. So they do check out Jamie. Jamie will be hosting that show as well this week. And as always, look, do like and share and subscribe to the channel. We're growing and growing every week, and without your support, though, we wouldn't be where we are. So look, I really do appreciate everyone's support, and continue support over this period. You know what, it really does. Jamie, I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and look, hopefully we get the 3 points in the group tomorrow and get one more step and closer to the knockout stages of the Champions League, because that's where we want to be. We'd want to be getting knocked out in the group stage, that's for sure. So look, everyone, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a while.